Amanda from Petals Bath Boutique, and I'm making some bubble bars with you today, or for you today. Lately, I think, people are looking at my old videos, but one of the questions I've been getting like the most lately is related to bubble bars and my recipe. And there are tons of free recipes online on how to make these. If you check out like Soap Queen TV here on YouTube, she has some recipes from, like, there are tons of them out there. This is my recipe. This is one I've been using like forever, and it's very simple, very easy, and this is just how I like to do it. So I'm going to use baking soda. I got this one from Crafter's Choice, but you can get it from like the supermarket. You don't even have to get like Arm & Hammer. You can get like the store brand. My personal experience, I actually prefer the less expensive baking soda, because for me, I find that it's more powdery. It's a little bit finer than like the Arm & Hammer baking soda. That's just my personal preference. I'm also going to be using vegetable glycerin from Soaper's Choice, but you can also find vegetable glycerin at drugstore, like Rite Aid or something like that. I'm using sodium lauryl sulfate acetate. This isn't sodium lauryl sulfate, which you can use. My personal preference is just the SLSA, not the SLS. I get this from the chemistry.com. I'm going to be using cornstarch. Once again, you can also get this at your local supermarket. And today I'm going to be scenting with black raspberry vanilla fragrance from Nature's Garden. And a little trick for you, they have all kinds of colorants available at the soap online from different soap supply vendors, specifically for like bath bombs and bubble bars and things like that. Or you can get food coloring, the gel colorants from Wilton. This is the type that you put into your icing when you're trying to color icing for a cake or something. You can use this in your bath bombs. Not too much if you don't want to color your water or anything like that. Find that these, you can use them in your bath bombs or your bubble bars, and they don't stick to the side of the bathtub when you drain the water. So these are cool to use when you're in a pinch. Or not, really. Personally, I've used them for years and never had a problem with them. I love them. And okay, so I'm getting started. I'm sort of going to share a recipe, but sort of not, because I don't really measure. It's kind of like making like potato salad or baked macaroni and cheese or candied yams or something. You don't have a recipe. It's just you've made it for so many years, you kind of just know. It's more about ratios. What I'm using right here is just half of a bath bomb mold. You can use a measuring cup. You can use whatever you want, because like I said, it's more about the ratios than anything. But I'm just using 1/2 of a bath bomb mold. And so if you don't want to make like a large batch, if you're not really making these for sale or anything like that, you don't have to make a super large batch. You can sort of just make your batches smaller. So I'm going to use 2 scoops of the baking soda, and like I said, I like to keep this really simple. The ingredients aren't complicated. The whole process for me just isn't complicated. I don't like complicated things. I like things to be pretty easy and straightforward. The less ingredients to me, the better. So I'm gonna make a small batch here for you guys just to demonstrate. So I'm gonna use 2 scoops of the baking soda and 1 scoop of the cornstarch, and we're going to use, actually I'm going to use 2 scoops of the SLSA. Be careful with this. It's airborne very easily. It can kind of get you choked up. So I don't just dump it in. I kind of take it in closely and drop it. Alright. So this is the basic recipe right here. If you want to add like maybe some sweet almond oil or sunflower oil, something light like that, you can. I would recommend using soap. Excuse me. See? Be careful with it. I would recommend using small quantities because it can affect your bubbles. You want a lot of bubbles. The oil, too much oil will kind of kill your lather there. So be mindful of that. Now with the fragrance oil, generally when you're using fragrance oils, the supplier is going to give you a percentage that you should use when you're making certain products, which I would always recommend going on the website and looking at the percentages that they recommend. Now, the amount of fragrance that I use in bath bombs, in bubble bars or even bath bombs, is usually more than I would use on a product that's going to go directly on the skin, like a soap or a lotion or a body oil or something like that, because those are going directly onto the skin. They put those percentages on the fragrance oils for a reason. Please follow them. It's very important that you follow those. In this case, I'm not going to follow it because this product is not going directly onto the skin. It's going to be put into a huge tub of water. So, you know, it leaves a little bit of room there for play. But I'm still not going to put too much. I'm just putting in enough. Usually for something this size, I would use 2 capfuls. You kind of can tell by how it smells. So we'll go with maybe 2 teaspoons here. Get that in there good. And then I'm going to add the vegetable glycerin. You don't want to use too much of this initially. Once again, I'm not measuring it. I'm feeling it out. The consistency that I want is, let me bring you in a little bit closer. I want it to stick together, but I don't want it to be too sticky. So it's better to add a little and then add more as needed. Stir it up. Once again, be careful because of that sodium lauryl sulfate acetate. I mix very carefully here at first. I didn't sift the baking soda or anything like that. Like I said, I like to keep it simple. So once I kind of have everything mixed here and I know that the SLSA isn't going to get me choked up, I can start mixing a little bit more freely. Now, you don't want it to be, like I said, you don't want it to be sticky. It will take forever to harden if it ever really does. The purpose of the cornstarch is actually to help this all harden without being too hard. I've used bubble bars before in the past that were like so hard I couldn't crumble it in the water. But you want here something that's firm, that stays together, it ships easily, but when when your customer or your friends, your family, whomever goes to use it, that it crumbles easily for them. Okay, so we're doing well here. And then from here, I just kind of switch to mixing with my hands to make sure I don't have any lumps or anything like that from the baking soda. And this is like perfect right here, actually. It's not too sticky and it's not too dry. You don't want it to be crumbly unless you're using molds. If you're using molds, you actually don't even want it this sticky. You're going to want it a little bit more crumbly than this. A little bit drier. But we're going to be rolling these. And right now, it's not quite the consistency that you would want for rolling. It would fall apart. But remember, we're also going to be adding our gel colorants. And that's also going to make this a stickier mixture. So, yeah, just add a little bit of glycerin. Add more later if you need it. Okay, so this is actually pretty good here. So I'm going to do 3 colors. I'm going to do white, I'm going to do blue, and I'm going to do purple. So I'm going to divide out some for each color. And as you can see, these are not holding their shape perfectly. They're still quite a bit crumbly, and that's exactly how I want it. Okay, so I'm going to leave one portion uncolored, and I'm just going to use a popsicle stick. I'm going to add a little blue to one. And the other one's going to be purple. And you can also, if you want like a little shimmer in the water, You can also use cosmetic safe micas. Okay, so I'm going to start with the purple one. I'm going to just mix these by hand, just sort of by kneading them together, or kneading it. Just squishing and rolling. You can also do this in a bowl. I think I used to do it in a bowl. I can't remember. I don't really make these too much anymore. You're going to just keep squishing until your color is consistent. You can go for a darker color or lighter color. I'm going for a lighter purple, not as dark because I want it to contrast with the blue. So now this is kind of like Play-Doh. It now has the consistency of a very, very slightly dried out Play-Doh. It's moldable, but as you can see, it's not sticky. It's not sticking to the counter. It's not sticking to my hands. This is the perfect consistency. Okay, now I'm going to do the same thing to the blue one. Okay, so I have my colors mixed here. Looks like I have a little bit more purple than the other one, so I may start. I'm going to start with the purple and then add the blue and the white. So I'm going to roll it out with this little roller. I think it's a fondant. I think that's how you say it. Fondant roller. You can get this in the cake making aisle at like Walmart, Michael's, or any of those type of places. I'm just going to flatten it out. I'm not going to flatten it too much because I still have to roll the other colors on top. Okay, and then I'm going to do the white. Spread this on top. Roll it out a bit to get it all nice and even. Keep the shape going. Okay, now I'm going to add the blue. Okay, now I'm going to roll it out thinner because I'm about to roll it to cut. When you see me sliding it back and forth right like this, I'm just cleaning off the roller. You'll see some of it gets stuck, so I'm just rubbing it back on. We're pretty good here. Okay, so what I use to to roll. There are different ways to do this. I've seen people use like say like freezer paper or wax paper and stuff like that. But doing it the way that I do it, it's not that sticky. So it's really not necessary, I guess, to use those extra steps. And, you know, since we're trying to keep this super simple, I'm just going to use a net. I'm just going to, so make sure you can see clearly what I'm doing. Okay, so I'm just going to lift this up and start rolling. Now, remember, like I said, this is not a sticky recipe. So, just sort of take your time and go through it. If it seems like it's sort of crumbling a little bit, stop and just smush it back together. And what I like about doing it this way, like I said, is you can make your batches as large or as small as you want. I've seen like with actual recipes, you know, you have to figure out how to convert it for a smaller batch or something like that. With this, by using ratio, it doesn't matter what you're using to measure out. You can use a measuring cup, it doesn't matter. Whatever you're using to measure it out, you're just going to get your ratios correct. And that way you can make your batch whatever size you want, big or small. Okay, so we have a nice sort of jelly roll looking thing going on here. Alright, so now I'm going to slice this into actual bars. So it looks like we're going to get 1, 2, 3, 4, about 5 bars here. And I just score them on top just so I can get an idea of how big I want them. And if you want to change your mind on the size you want, just rub it out. Not a big deal. So let's get the ratios correct here again. Okay. One. Cut 2. Three. 4 and 5. Okay, so these are actually going to harden up overnight. It's about, I don't know, about 2 in the afternoon. And I'll check these again tomorrow afternoon. They probably won't even take that long to firm up. As you can see, they're not sticky at all. I can leave them just like this. They're not going to lose their shape or anything like that. And tomorrow they'll be firm and easy to crumble under in the bath water. And also, the cool thing about this recipe is you don't have to use the entire bath bomb. For those of you that may not know, the water pressure, your water pressure is what creates your bubbles. So the better your water pressure, of course, the better your bubbles. I mean, you could probably use a quarter of this. If you have jets, your bubbles will probably be ridiculously directly insane. Under the running water. And as the bubbles are created, push them to the back of the tub so that there's room for new bubbles to create. And you can enjoy like a nice long bath using these. You do not have to use the whole thing. You can probably use a third of it with really good water pressure. a quarter.
All right, so I hope you enjoyed my super simple, easy bubble bars. I'm going to have this recipe for free on my website. It's www.petalsbathboutique.com. I hope this was helpful for those that had the questions, and I'll catch you guys later. Thanks so much for watching. Bye-bye.